Tune into The Final Take with MK Mariner every Saturday on the Alcamba Times and experience extensive conversations on a variety of topics, including national and international headlines, breaking issues, and major developments in politics, business, innovation, science, and sports, along with inspiring stories and expert analysis to provide a comprehensive understanding of the news.
Hello and warm welcome to yet another exciting edition of The Final Take with me, Seni MK Mariner. Today we have a special guest in the passing of Dr. Ibrahim Mbodj, a maths and cybersecurity professor. Mr. Mbodj is a well-known Gambian who have been doing a lot of work in science technology. Today we're going to discuss about quite a lot of issues, including the 2026 presidential election, his journey in science, maths, and cybersecurity. Dr. Mbodj, welcome to The Final Take with me, Seni Marina.
Thank you, Mr. Marina, for inviting me to this talk, and I'm very thrilled to join you, and I'm ready to go. So if you have any questions, so let's hit the ground, Yeah.
Thank you very much, and then it's great to have you on this. So after many months of pursuing you to, join my show to share your experience with my audiences. Dr. Mbodj, you have had a very illustrious career spanning academia and industry across 3 continents, from the Gambia to France and the United States. Can you share how your route in Nyamina Dankunku, Central River region, shaped your journey to becoming a mathematics and cybersecurity professor and leader?
Okay, first of all, let me make a little bit of a clarification here. My own education actually, as you said, spanned 3 continents. So I was born in Africa, and to be more specific, I was born in Cote d'Ivoire, actually, not in the Gambia.
Wow.
Because I'm Gambian by my father, who comes from Nyamina Dankunku. But when, according to the story, what I've heard, what I learned from my own father, when he was 25, he traveled to Cote d'Ivoire, and that's where he met my mother. Okay, and then they got married, and obviously I'm the product of that, and also my own siblings. So I began going to school in Cote d'Ivoire, actually. So you can see that would tell you that actually I speak French, So when I was around 10 to 11, that was the time that my family, the family of my father, kind of moved from Cote d'Ivoire to the Gambia. So at the time, I had just finished the equivalent of what you would call primary 5. So I only had 1 year to go to finish my primary education. So my parents looked around, and also the brother of the older brother of my father, my uncle, whom everybody knows. Actually, his name is Sajam Mbodj. He used to be the chief Sajam Mbodj. He used to be the chief of our village, Dankunku. So they looked around, and then they found out that actually the Senegalese did have a primary school in Banjul. So I was sent to Banjul to finish my final year of elementary school, primary school. And at the time, the Senegalese school was just very close to the National Library, in the same area where you have Gambia High School, just a stone throw away from Gambia High School. And this is where I did my primary 6. So when I finished it, I was lucky. Well, I mean, I've always been a good student and a hardworking student. So When I passed the equivalent of what we would call in the Gambia during those days as a common entrance to secondary school, then I was sent to Cowlack. So I went there and I did all my secondary school. Uh, very early in my education, uh, my teachers and everybody knew that I did have some facilities, some ease for mathematics and science. So I studied science, and when I got the what you would call the equivalent of my A level, then I came back to the Gambia. And the reason why I came back to the Gambia is because being a Gambian, I could not proceed to the university in Senegal because at the time, if you were a foreigner, you needed to pay to go to have higher education in Senegal. So I couldn't pay. You know, my parents were just peasants. In Dankungu, so they didn't have the money to pay for me. So I came back to the Gambia. So when I came to the Gambia, as many Gambians used to do, I became a teacher. They call it unqualified teacher then. And I taught at Sukuta Secondary School, Sukuta Secondary Technical School. So I was teaching mathematics there. A lot of people thought that
Which
I
year
was
was
teaching
this,
French. Huh?
Dr. Mboch?
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you very well.
Yeah.
Yes, I
So,
can hear you. Go ahead.
so I started teaching at the secondary school in Sukuta. At the time, they call it Sukuta Junior Secondary Technical School. So I was there for about 2 to 3 years. I taught there for about 2 to 3 years. I was teaching mathematics. Now, some people would think that I was teaching French there. No, I wasn't teaching French. I was teaching mathematics. And being there, I would look around, search, and see if I could get if I could get an opportunity to study abroad and apply for several scholarships. And I also developed my contacts with the French representation in the Gambia at that time. Uh, I think it was the guy's name was Rahul, and he used to lead the Alliance Francaise, and it was through him that I got all this opportunity to go to France and study mathematics. So at the end, I spent I spent 9 years in France, roughly 10, and I went from my first year in France, where I matriculated as a mathematics student, until my PhD, and I was lucky to get to defend my PhD successfully, and I was awarded a PhD in an area that actually is at the crossroad of mathematics and engineering. So I'm talking. So and then I was awarded this my PhD in mathematical control theory, so which is a branch between engineering and applied mathematics. So that's my journey from primary school to higher education. Yeah, but
Interesting.
yeah. So on my father's side, I'm a Gambian, and on my mother's side, I'm an Ivorian. In fact, I like to joke that when it comes to to Gambian politics, our very first president, who is Sadaudu, is my hero. I just love that guy. But I also like to joke to people by saying that when it comes to blood relations, I'm closer to Kwame Nkrumah than I'm even to Sadat. So you can see because my mom actually is an Akan. So I'm Gambian by my father and I'm Ivorian by on my mother's side. Yeah.
Okay, that's really special.
Yeah.
Mm.
Hello? Can you hear me? Hello?
My charger. Let me allow me to. Just give it back. That's my Sharpie.
Mr. Marina?
Stop it.
Hello?
Give.
Hello, Dr. Mboj, can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you now, but for a moment I lost contact.
Connection. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So you were talking about your Gambian root. You said, sometimes you identify yourself as both Gambian and Ivorian because your mother is an Ivorian and your dad is Gambian. Go ahead.
Yes, yes. Yeah, so uh, like I said, I was born in Cote d'Ivoire of an Ivorian mother and a Gambian father. So my father was well known while he was alive. Unfortunately, he passed away in Nyamina Dankunku not too long ago. Just a couple of years ago, my father passed away. So we belong to the Mboj family. Everybody knows the Mboj family in Nyamina Dankunku.
Right.
The father's name was Jaman Timboj, a typical Gambian name.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that kind of name anywhere that I've traveled in the world. I think Jamanti stand for the proprietor of the mosque when you translate it from the Mandinka language. And my father was the brother of a very well-known chief
Chief.
in the Gambia, whose name was Sajamboj. So that's the family that I come from on my father's side. And then on my mother's side, actually, my mother belongs to a tribe in Cote d'Ivoire known as the Baoulé. So the Baoulé are a big tribe in they are Akan people. Um, so yeah, so that's my background.
Mhm.
And so yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for those tuning in. This is the final take with me, Seni Marena. In the studio today is Dr. Ibrahim Boj, Professor of Maths, Computing, and Cybersecurity. We'll be talking about his journey and also the political situation back home because Mr. Boj is very concerned about corruption and transparency issues in the country. As Dr. Mboj, as the first Gambian professor of mathematics at the University of the Gambia, what inspired you to pursue such a groundbreaking path, and how do you reflect on that milestone today?
Okay, in in 1995, uh, I was awarded my doctorate degree, my Doctor of Philosophy in mathematical control theory, and I during the 4 years that I was reading for my PhD, I happened to be lucky, if you could call it that way, or I've always been a good student, so you can also say that it's not really luck. It was the effort that I was putting into my study that uh, afforded me the that luck to be able to teach at my alma mater, the university that I was matriculated in and pursuing my PhD in, which the name of which university is Université Paul Sabatier. So some people call it Université Paul Sabatier, and sometimes some people call it Université de Toulouse 3, which means Toulouse 3. And
That's
when I
university is in France, right?
was in France, yeah.
Oh,
So when I was while I was pursuing my PhD, I got this opportunity to also teach over there. So, but when I got my PhD in 1995, at the time, um, especially in science, there were only a few, I would say, a few Gambians that would boast of having a PhD in such
really?
areas of technology and pure science, or even applied science. So I heard that I learned at that time that the Gambia has initiated a university system. So I told myself, well, this might be a great opportunity for me to just go back home and contribute to the development of that system. So that's how I packed all my belongings and and then went back home. So I mean, I had the opportunity to teach, to continue my academic journey and pursuit in France, but I decided to go home. So when I went home, that was the time that they had this university extension program. In fact, they used to call it the St. Mary's University Extension Program, which actually was the forerunner or the precursor to the University of the Gambia. So uh, at the time, it was being run by by a Canadian,
Yeah, Nova
how will I
Scotia.
call it? Yeah, Nova Scotia, a Canadian organization. And I think if my memory is still fresh, the guy who was running it was Devani, Boris Devani. So I went to the education department and I said to the lady that I spoke to, I think she was the permanent secretary at the time, and I told her that I wanted to join the university extension program. So she thought I was asking to become a student at the time. So I said no. I wanted to join as a faculty, and from there we had a lengthy discussion. And right in front of me there, she called Boris Devani, and Boris asked her, told her to tell him to tell me to come over to him. So I went there. We had a discussion, and then I told him what I am capable of, what I can teach, and all that. And that's how I joined the university extension program. So I began as the very first Gambian professor in that country. I think that has even been documented in the Nova Scotia newsletters. And that's how I joined that system. And I taught there until 1980, 1998. So I taught there until 1998. And given the situation in the Gambia, because I wasn't necessarily uh, I wasn't very vocal, but I look at the situation how it was going. It was during yeah, Jammeh's time, and I would
James,
see,
yeah.
yeah, you know, people being brutalized for no reason and so on. So when I got my break, I mean holidays, uh, I just decided that I could not stay in the country anymore. So that's how I came to the United States of America. It was
Wow.
in uh, I can I can remember it was in May 4th, 1998. So May 4th,
Wow.
1998 is when I came to this country. So if you do the math, it's almost like 27 years from that time up to now. So when I came here, I was, well, some people can say I was lucky, but I had my PhD, a solid PhD in an area that was really in demand, even in America. So I was able to secure a position uh, teaching uh, at Fordham University. So I taught there for a while, and uh,
Where
and
is your
then
Fordham University located here?
it's in New
It's
York.
in
It's in New York. Yeah,
New York.
that's in New York. So I taught there, and then from there I got a position in the SUNY system, the State University of New York. And from there, I also moved to a school in the East Coast of North Carolina. The school's name is Chowan University, and in that school, I became uh, for a while, I became the head of department there of mathematics. And then from there too, I moved to the University of South Dakota. So I've moved to a number of
University.
schools until universities, until I got a job at Microsoft, where actually I was dealing with application compatibilities and security and things like that. So from there, I learned a lot of um, security. I also learned a lot of by security, I mean cybersecurity, and that's how I happened to get this position where I am at now at Clinton uh,
College.
College. There, I'm teaching cybersecurity and sometime mathematics. But most of the teaching I do is around cybersecurity and computer science. Yeah,
Wow.
computer science. Yeah.
Interesting, Dr. Mboj. You have a very rich CV when it comes to education. As a maths professor, cybersecurity. Being the first professor at the University of the Gambia. Now, tell me from your global vantage point, how would you assess the current state of Gambia in terms of education, technology, and economic development? What key challenges do you see holding the nation back?
Well, I think, well, I've been to the Gambia. Uh, the most recent one was uh, May, May 2024. And I was privileged to speak to the university students and also to the students at of various high schools that were put together just to come and listen to me because uh, the school had uh, wanted me at the time to give a speech on STEM, mathematics, and science and engineering in general. So I talked to the students, and I think that one thing that is going for the Gambia is that we have a student body that
Yeah.
is very, very dedicated to 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 acquiring an education. So our students are very motivated compared to American students. So Gambian students are highly motivated. And also very recently, I've been following the news, and I think the Ministry of Higher Education is putting a lot of deploying a lot of effort to try to advance higher education. I think all those efforts are good. They're good. But I think where the emphasis should be placed, should be laid, is with primary educations and secondary education. Because if you have your primary education, secondary education, and the nursery system in the Gambia to really perform at a very high level, I think uh, university education will benefit a lot because, as we can see right now, university education actually is moving towards not the system that we have, because the current system we have is to construct uh, massive buildings, brick and mortar facilities. I think we are going away from that now. So for me, I believe that the education system in the Gambia should prioritize secondary education and primary education. Make sure that students that come out of that system really will acquire the education that we want them to have. So we should no longer have students that graduate from high school that can't read or can do simple algebra. I think the bulk of our efforts should be placed there. I'm not sure that that is what is happening in the Gambia right now. I think we are building massive buildings, and I'm not even sure that those massive higher education building will be well equipped. I think it is just, you know, uh, putting those buildings there, and in the end, they may not be as equipped as higher education is supposed to be. So that's
When you
my
when you talk about equipping this institution, because higher education anywhere in the world is very key for any country's development. In the Gambia, let's take an example of our healthcare system. We have a lot of hospitals, but most of these hospitals are without qualified staff or personnel. There is no drug. So we have also seen that in the
yeah,
education
but
sector, a lot of
yeah,
university
but the
students
same,
are complaining
yeah,
that they
exactly.
don't have they don't have the required resources, to pursue their education. And we have seen the government building new complex for the University of the Gambia. What do you think government should do right now to focus
Well,
on building? Yeah.
that's that's the observation that I'm making because um, I have contact with well, I mean, I've talked to a few students that are students uh, of the institutions that they are now calling USET, the University of Science and Technology,
Yeah. Formerly
and
GTTI. Yeah.
through yeah through my discussion with those students, they would tell me that this is what they are studying, and frankly speaking, what they are studying is not university stuff. It is not. It is
Wow.
more or less high school stuff that they're studying. In fact, in some cases, it's not even high school stuff. It is just middle school stuff. So you can't just go around building buildings and calling them universities when you know that the content of it, what is being taught over there,
Hmm.
is not university material. So I think
But but
we are
but
just
uh, but,
doing
but doctor, this is
our,
yeah, this is very important and very concerning because we only had University of the Gambia, but right now we have at least three more public universities, and the concern that you are raising is very alarming. We have the Gambia College, which is turned into University of Education now. We have the GTTI, which is turned into University of Science and Technology, and you are saying that the curriculum designed for these new universities do not meet the university requirement. Isn't this
no, they
alarming?
don't.
What do you think? They don't.
Well, they don't. I think what is happening in the Gambia is just, I should put it this way, it is in the
Are
sector
they
of
are they
education.
rushing? Are they rushing things instead of doing the right thing?
That's my sentiment. My feeling is that they are rushing things. Uh, it is all about propaganda, saying that we do have multiple universities, but in actuality, we don't have multiple universities. We just have institutions that have been renamed universities, but they are not even universities because the curriculum is not
But
at
what if
par with what
this
should
can
become.
have a yeah, this can have a very far-reaching implication on the country's development because we expect university students to solve complex issues, and now we have public universities that do not meet the required standard to be called universities.
Well, they are not. I mean, let them publish the curriculum of those institutions that have been recently renamed universities. Let them publish the curriculum. Do they have, for instance, school catalogs where you can access the curriculum and all the subjects that are being taught there, the courses and the classes that are being taught there? And if they do so, you will find out that actually what I'm saying is true. So we don't have universities. We just have institutions that have been renamed universities, but these are not universities because the moment you talk to the students and they tell you the sort of things that have been taught there, you will know that these are not universities. In fact, GDDR at this moment that we are speaking, GDDR would just be called a vocational school. It's not a university. It's not. It's not.
But the government claim that they are transforming this
Well, that's
higher
what they claim.
institution.
That's what they say, but what is the reality? I think you have a bunch of people over there at the Ministry of Education uh, whose number one priority is to just tell the president what the president wants to hear, and they're declaring that everything is now university because, and then Barrow can go around the country, run around the country and say that we have built this number of universities. But in reality, is we don't have universities over there. What they should have done is to develop more the University of the Gambia, equipped it in terms of
Yeah.
resources, um, and then also in terms of qualified faculties, and really raise the standard of that university, and not just multiply, I mean, artificially multiply the number of universities that do not even qualify for a proper college.
Dr. Mbo, this is a very serious issue. You know, as someone who believes in standards and quality, you give, you know, to the Ministry of Higher Education with regard to the proliferation of these public universities trying to, you know, go below the standard. What advice will you give the minister or the government?
Um, my advice would be, first of all, to stop um, fooling people, you know.
Okay.
So, I mean, everything starts with transparency. If you call an institution a university, you must you must have a catalog for that institution. And then you must list all the courses that are being taught in the various departments for all the programs. For each program, you need to have a catalog. And then that catalog needs to be adhered to. In other words, we should respect that catalog. And also, you should have you should lay down clear requirements for the students to graduate in the various programs. So let transparency prevail. When transparency prevails, then people will know if your institutions are really universities or not. But it is not because the Minister of Higher Education just decide to call an institution a university that it becomes a university. You work to build universities. You do not decree university. You do not just say from now on they're going to become universities and they become university. It doesn't work
They
like
have
that.
to go through transition to become fully
Yeah,
fledged universities.
yeah,
And in this case, that is lacking in the public universities that are currently in the
yeah,
country.
yeah. Now, this is a question that I'm gonna pose you or anybody who is listening to us. Has anybody seen the catalog, the course description of all the courses and classes that are being taught at the university, at the USET, the University of Science and Technology? Have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen it.
No. So, how do you know it is really a university? Apart from being told that it is a university, how do you know? How can you check that it is a university? There's no way you can find out. And in fact, when you have a conversation with the students going to those institutions and you talk about what they are learning, then you find out that actually what I'm telling you is true, that it is not a university.
Okay.
I mean,
It's
the
not a
standard,
university. Yeah.
in terms of standards, they are not universities. I mean, you can call it anything you want, but they are not universities.
Universities. Wow. Interesting. Thank you very much, Dr. Mboj. My next question is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We call it STEM. It's a cornerstone of your work. How can Gambia prioritize STEM education to prepare its youths for the demand of the 21st century global economy?
Well, I mean, I'm gonna just repeat myself again. I think what we should do is to give the resources where they are needed. And where are the resources most needed? It is in the primary sector and the secondary sector of education. So if we uh, prioritize those sectors by giving them the right resources, and then will come out of those sectors students that are well schooled, well educated, uh, prepared to matriculate into high educations with the right standards. You see, or we can also just decide that, well, we don't want to prioritize those sectors and put all our money in higher educations. And if we choose that second path, what is going to happen is that we will have entering those um, higher education institutions, we will have a number of students that will enter them and will not have the right uh, prerequisite knowledge to really succeed in those uh, higher education sectors. So, what by prioritizing primary school and making sure that those students get the right education, then we will have a smooth transition from primary school to secondary school, and then from secondary school to higher education. Now, if you look at the tendency towards higher education now, it is moving more and more towards online education. So you do
Yeah.
not have to pump too much money into building big uh, brick and brack facilities, brick and mortar facilities that will house all those students. Because once you develop your communication system, the internet, and you make it affordable, uh, there will be a significant number of students that will be able to study even by using the online facilities. So you would not have to pump so much money into building uh, schools and things like that, because the tendency now in 5 years to come, 5 or 10 years to come, education will be immensely transformed, where you will see that the bulk of all our students will be online rather
Yeah.
than attending on-ground
Yes,
classes.
indeed.
See, and then that will free up money that you can put in primary school education and higher and secondary school education. Now, the reason you should do that is that it will be more difficult for you to to uh, to bring technology into primary school education and secondary school education, because at that level our students are not that mature enough to take their own education into their hand. So they need to be accompanied, they need to be helped by educationists, by people that are experts in education. Uh, in other words, you should have more teachers in that area, qualified teachers in that area. Then you will require qualified teachers in higher education. Because once you get to higher education, you can sort of teach yourself. So you don't need that much accompaniment to as you would need in primary school.
Many thanks for that brilliant answer, Dr. Ibrahim Boch. For those tuning in, this is the final take with me, Seni Marena. Our conversation is around higher education. I know the next segment will be political discussions ahead of the 2026 president's election. But Dr. Boch, many thanks once again for joining this conversation on the final take. Drawing from your experience securing a multi-million-dollar grant for Clinton College, what strategies could the Gambia adopt to attract investment in education and technology infrastructure?
Well, I mean, the landscape for grant money in the states in America is obviously different from when I mean the landscape, I mean the opportunities for obtaining grants in America is different from what you what you will see in Africa in general, and in the Gambia in particular, for instance. But I believe that even in the Gambia, you do have opportunities to get grant monies too, because there are non there are uh, countries or development partners that are always looking to see if they can do some good in the African countries, and therefore who are ready to give countries like the Gambia a lot of money. In fact, this is not something that I'm just um, fictitiously trying to think about or trying to conjure up, because we have all been witness since the departure of Yahya Jammeh, uh, the millions and millions of dollars that have landed in the Gambia. So I think money itself is not really the problem. And that brings me to kind of maybe unwillingly talk about politics. I'm I'm not I'm not really an expert in the social sciences. I'm not an expert in political science, not even in uh, economics. But I think that will bring us into politics in the sense that
Yeah, yeah.
we have
Our
to
next
control.
conversation. Yeah, our next
We
conversation will
have,
go into politics.
yeah,
Yeah. Mhm.
yeah. But when you talk about money,
Mhm.
especially for a country like the Gambia, I think our problem is not to secure money. But our problem is to make sure that the money that we get actually is channeled towards what the money was given for, you see. And because I think the Gambia right now, there's not a single day that goes by without people learning about a group of people that have embezzled this so and so amount of
Corruption.
money. So if you cannot stop corruption, there's no way that you'll be able to develop your education system. So the first thing we have to do is to make sure that we have in place in various positions of power people that are sincere and honest people, people that love the Gambia and not just love themselves and their own family alone. Uh, People that occupy positions in the Gambia should love the Gambia. Gambia should be their family and not their just nuclear family, which consists of themselves and their children and their wives or husbands. I think this is where our biggest problem is. In fact, our biggest problem in the Gambia is not economic, it's not lack of education. Our biggest problem right now, as we speak, is corruption. Corruption is everywhere. The last time I went to the Gambia, as soon as I set feet on the Gambian soil, I
Airport.
noticed the widespread corruption. So this is something that we have to put a check on. If we can't put a check on the corruption, there's no way that we can develop that country. And corruption is rampant in the Gambia. The current president is presiding on a civil service that is utterly corrupt. And if we cannot stop that, where are we going to get the money to develop education? There will be no money.
So, Prof, from your conversation, corruption undermine everything, including education. How do we tackle corruption in the country? Because Gambia has seen unprecedented level of corruption. It seems corruption has been institutionalized, systematic. We have read and report on several corruption scandals. The recent one is the looted assets of the former president. Lot of protests recently demanding for accountability. As someone who have seen it all from many continents, you live in France, you live in Ivory Coast, you live in Nigeria, you are currently in the United States. How do we tackle the issue of corruption head on in the Gambia?
Well, okay. Let me make a quick rectification there. Well, I haven't lived in Nigeria. Okay, I
But you
lived in
study in
France.
you study
Yeah,
in
I lived in
Nigeria.
many places though. I lived in
Yeah.
many places. That's the essence of it. So um, I think corruption is everywhere. You have corruption in the States, you have corruption in Europe, you have corruption everywhere. And I bet there is corruption even in China, where corruption can actually bring you a death penalty. But there's a difference in how you handle corruption whenever you find out that uh, uh, a a particular sector has been plagued by corruption. There's a way that you have to handle it. When you have all the proofs, or at least the likelihood that corruption has been committed, you don't just say that corruption never happened. What you do is you genuinely investigate it and let the punishment be delivered wherever the evidence is found that corruption has happened. Uh, in the Gambia, for instance, somebody can embezzle large sums of money, millions and millions of dollars, and nothing happens to you. By the way, it is the contrary. It is the opposite that does happen to you. You become a hero. You become a hero, not only uh, uh, in public view, but you also become a hero in the view of in the eyes
Family.
of our current president, who says that, well, all that is just rumors and nothing is happening. But when people see that money is being disappeared, well, there's corruption. We all know that. When somebody prior to occupying a position was a poor citizen, and all of a sudden it start amassing money, large sums of money, millions, owning bank accounts that are stuffed with millions and
Money.
millions of dollars, then you must ask yourself, how does he get all that money? How did he manage to get all that money? And you must investigate. Now, a while ago, people who have been following me will agree that, or will uh, remark that, will notice that actually uh, I did put out some ideas there by saying that if you enter the government, you must declare your assets. Now, before becoming a civil
And
servant
doctor,
of a
not
certain
to
position,
cut you short, not to cut
mhm,
you short, but the law of the Gambia, the constitution of the Gambia has made it very clear that public officials must declare what they have before they occupy, public positions like cabinet minister. When the coalition government came in,
yeah,
this was something that they promised to do. But we noticed that most of the ministers, even the president, failed to declare their assets. And looking at what they amass
yeah,
within these 8 years, one will
so,
conclude that,
so,
corruption has been systematic and institutionalized in the current administration.
yeah, so the laws ought to be applied. We should enforce the laws. So this is it. You declare your assets while you are getting in. And when you are getting out, you declare your assets too. And then we will try to see if there is any blatant, clear discrepancy between what you own before getting in and what you are owning now when you are getting out. Now, if your assets have increased by, let's say, how do you call it, $1 million, maybe one would say, well, that's okay. Maybe one would say, well, he was the president, he was minister of that. So the assets happen to be pushed up by maybe a million, maybe that's reasonable. But if you enter government and you have absolutely nothing, not even a bank account, and when you are exiting, if you are owning tens of millions of dollars, then we must ask ourselves, how did you get that money? Because your salary alone will not give you that.
Right.
You must have embezzled the money, public money, or maybe you got that money through bribery. And either way, you've broken the law. Now, this is what I'm saying. If you declare your assets in, but when you are coming out of government, when you are exiting government office, you declare your asset, and we find out that actually there were some assets that you never declared. Anything that you did not declare, you must lose it, because we should ask ourselves, how did you get them? So the laws should be enforced.
But doctor, we have a very weak enforcement of the law in the country because
Yeah, because we do
9
have very
years
weak.
since the coalition government came, they promised to, they promised to, establish anti-corruption commission to fight against rampant corruption in the government. But 8 years down the line, the commission is non-existent. So,
But
and
yes,
now we realize,
yes. So what you're saying is true. We do have uh, we. I mean, there's almost no authority that is actually enforcing those laws. But what are the consequences of that? The consequences of that are what you see in the street right now. And it's not going to
Yeah.
be better.
Yeah.
It's not going to be better.
Yeah.
It's going to be worse and worse. The situation is going to complexify. It's going to worsen every day. Because you know why the
So
situation is going to worsen?
what should citizens do? Because we have seen lack
But
of
you know why? Let me finish my thought thread. You know why the situation is going to worsen? Because every day that goes by, the Gambian population is increasing. Every day that goes by. Now, when I left the Gambia, the last time I went there was a year ago. But before that, the other time that I went there, before the last time, it was in 2013. When I went back to the Gambia after so many years, I couldn't even recognize the place. I
Why?
couldn't recognize the place because everything has changed. I mean, cities have sprawled. You see, at the time you have like you have Abuko and Lamin and all that were completely separate. Now the sprawling cities have come together into one, almost one city. So which means the population is increasing.
As a result of
The
rural
problems, the
migration.
problems are complexifying. Every day that you wait and you are not solving our problems, the problems become worse. And the youth at one point can't take it anymore because we will have malnutritions, we have population explosions, we will have lack of adequate facilities and resources to teach. And upon that, you see also large scale embezzlements and so on and so forth. So if you don't apply, if you don't enforce the laws, what you get is what we are seeing now. And it is never going to be solved until we decisively decide to solve the situation, to solve the problems that we are having.
Okay.
Now, you can wait 5 years from now, it's going to be worse. 5 years from now, it's going to be worse.
The warnings are on the wall, and the government is not taking this seriously.
Yeah.
Okay.
5 years from now, it's going to be worse.
Yeah, absolutely, Doctor. This conversation is getting very interesting, and a lot of people are watching. And then we are left with a little time, but I will have to ask you another few questions. This time we move a little bit from education, science, and technology into politics, because recently I've seen a lot of your commentary about the situation back home. Elections looming, oppositions not united, and the problem keep, piling up. As the Gambia approach the 2026 presidential election, what are the most pressing issues that the candidates should address to move the nation forward?
Well, I mean, my take on this, like I said, I'm not a political scientist. But
you are more of a science guy.
As a citizen, and somebody that deeply loves the Gambia because I have almost everything over there.
Yeah.
That's where my late dad is buried.
Yeah.
That's where even my mom, who originally comes from the Gambia, is buried. So I have everything there. My mom is somebody who left her country just to follow her children and her husband, and died in a country that initially wasn't even her own country. So I have everything there. So my love for that country is immense. In fact, I started serving the Gambia when I never even imagined I would get a degree in education. Okay, I was freshly from high school and I became a teacher in the Gambia. And when I finished, when I got my PhD, I went back to the Gambia to serve the Gambia. So
Yeah.
at first, I thought I work as an engineer um, at,
Microsoft.
at no, I mean in the Gambia, I worked at Gamtel, and then I went to teach at the university. So I've
Fortunate.
served the Gambia for a number of years out of love. I did not, I wasn't compelled. I didn't have to do it. I could have just stayed in Europe or come to America. You see, I didn't have to do it. So it is out of love that I did that. But I think our priority in the Gambia today, and I do have a sense of the direction of the political direction uh, in which we should be moving, is for the opposition parties to come together. And I think that we have real talent in that country. And I'm going to name you a few. I do not belong to any
Political party.
specific political party, but I think there are a number of people that have exhibited clear talent. But even though these people do not belong to the same party, I think for the love of the country, for the love of the Gambia, they should come together and rid us of the current administration. And how would they do that? If they come together, form at least temporarily, just for the sake of winning the election, a coalition where one of them would be selected to lead it. They can even have an election, and the most popular one could lead it, like we have done before in the past to remove Yahya Jammeh. I think this is what they should do. The political parties and the opposition to come together, and I'm thinking of talent like uh, Ensafar,
Yeah.
Yangs Dabo, Ben
Yeah.
Suda, Mama Kande. I think these people, they no one is perfect. They do have their own issues. They all have their own issues, but each of these people that I've named here will be far better than what we have right now, because what we have right now is almost lawlessness, corruption, and all kinds of ailments that we have in the country. So I think our priority right now, because if you don't have political power, there's very little you can do. Without political power in our countries,
You
there's
can
very
change
little
it.
you can't change much. So let them come together. At least they can even run against one another, and the best
Like a
person will be
primary.
chosen, a primary, and then let us all vote for that person to rid ourselves of the current administration. And from there, now
Okay.
we can try to change the country, because there's a lot that we can do. Uh, I believe that a good government, can do a lot of work like building roads and building hospitals and things like that. But I do not believe that that's the primary goal of a government. The primary goal of a government is uh, to to make sure that the laws are applied, uh, the uh, the laws are enforced, that corruption is almost brought to a level where it is almost non-existent, and then to empower the population. And once a population is empowered, the populations will bring their genius and try to transform the country. Entrepreneurship, people can build companies by themselves without the government building it. But you need a government that actually put in place all that uh, infrastructure to be able to build for the citizens to really build a country. Now,
Absolutely.
when I say infrastructure, it doesn't necessarily mean the government have to build roads. No. Look, if you go to the Gambia today, you don't even have straight roads. It will take you, it will take you an hour just to get from, for example, to cover 1 mile in
Yeah,
the
from,
city.
let's say from Westfield to traffic light
Yeah,
in
it will
Abu
take you
Dhabi.
an hour.
Yeah.
Even if those roads are not tarred, if we do not have even if we do not even have tarred road, but we have well planned road wide enough so that cars can move and so on. Like for example, even if you go to a place like Kaolack, they don't have many tarred road, but they do have straight roads, road that are wide enough, road that you can easily navigate. You see,
I
and
think
once you
that
can
is
put
as a
those
result. That is as a result of poor city
poor
planning.
planning,
Yeah,
poor
because when you
planning,
look at the when you look at raining season also in the Gambia, the moment it
exactly.
rains, everywhere is stuck with water. There is poor drainage system, and then I attribute all this to poor
Poor
city
planning,
planning.
of
Yeah,
course. But what
yeah.
is the current government doing to make sure that that poor planning become history? All they do is to go around, um, I mean, felling people's fences, I mean, creating more havoc. And
Mhm.
actually, they were doing that just because they wanted to get the money for the OIC.
Yeah.
And the moment they got the money, well, they aren't doing anything else. The constructions, the everything stopped. So what is the motivation? The motivation is not love of country. It's not really building the country. The motivation is corruption. So if you do not stop corruption, nothing is going to work in that country. We have to come to a point where if you steal and you are caught, well, we can tell our citizens, our compatriot, our fellow citizens, you are free to steal.
Mhm.
You can embezzle anyhow
You
you
are
want.
caught.
But if you
Yeah.
are caught, we will we are not going to kill you. We won't kill you because we are not into that Jammy system where we kill people, we shed blood and things like that. But if you are caught, we will lock you up and throw the keys into the ocean. Nobody will find the keys. You will just rot over there. And that has to be enforced. Because if we don't do that, corruption is going to go on. There will be no money to buy medicines for the hospitals and clinics. People are going to die
Mhm. No books
everywhere
for
in the
students.
country.
Yeah. Mhm.
Malnutrition and all kinds of things are going to happen. Now, the reason people are not seeing all those consequences because it happens at a slow pace. If I embezzle the money, there's no money to buy medicine. People would die, but they would die slowly. So actually, it is not a dramatic scene. It is not poignant. Like, for example, if you've been crushed by a car
Yeah.
on the highway. So that's why people are not reacting.
Yeah.
But we have to educate our citizens that corruption kills. And I've been saying this for the longest time. Every time that I write something about the Gambia is when I can't take it anymore because I've been seeing the widespread corruptions. It has to stop. It has to stop. And while we are undermining ourselves, shooting ourselves in the foot, the population is exploding through immigration, through urban drift, exodus, through the natural growth of the population. So it has to be a time when we say, well, no, we can't take this anymore. We have to change. And you
Absolutely.
know what?
Um,
You know what happens in many countries when the civilian people don't take care of this thing? You know what happens? It's what we saw in 1994. that
A
doesn't
military
mean,
coup.
that doesn't mean the situation is going to be better. So
Yeah.
most of the time, civilian governments are complicit to what happens to us when the military come in. This is not something we all want. But when they come in, that's what they use. They say, oh, we had widespread corruption, blah, blah, blah. Even though in 1994 it was a lie. There's no one who was as honest as Sadaga. Because when they deposed him, actually they didn't find him having anything.
Yeah.
So all that was a lie that was constructed.
But
But
in that
if
case,
we
you know,
civilians,
there were people who were also close to Sadauda who were very corrupt, you know, though the magnitude of it compared to now might be different.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. But well, in every system, by the way, I'm not saying that corruption can be totally eliminated. There's no place on earth where corruption is totally eliminated. I mean, we know, I mean, we have the proof of it. You and I live in America, we know that there's corruption here. But
Yeah.
the thing is, once you are caught,
Yeah. You face the consequences. Yeah.
consequences are there.
Absolutely.
You see,
Absolutely.
so
Anyway.
civilians should do everything for us not to go towards that kind of situation. You see, that's what we should do. Nobody likes that kind of lawlessness when the military can come in, and we should avoid that. And the person that is well placed, better placed, best placed in the Gambia today to avoid that kind of situation is this clueless president that we have over there. So I hope he will do something to spare the country moving towards that situation. Because when the military people come in, most of the time they're even worse. Because you can't stop them.
Yeah, we had past experience with
because when that happens, you can't even talk.
Yeah, they take all the freedoms, you know.
They take all the freedoms and they suspend the constitutions, and you don't even know what is happening in the dark of the night.
Yeah,
you see,
absolutely.
So nobody wants that in the Gambia. So we should avoid that. We should avoid it by all means.
Thank you very much, Doctor. I think, you know, the conversation is getting very interesting, but because of time, you know, we'll soon round up this exclusive interview. But before I do, I have, I think, a couple of, we might not exhaust all my questions because of time, but I want to ask you this, because your focus is more on technology, cybersecurity. You know, technology, including cybersecurity, is increasingly critical in modern governance and elections. How can Gambia safeguard its electoral process against cyber threats, and what lessons from your work in cybersecurity could apply as we head to 2026 presidential election? Although the government has not yet appointed any new chairman for the Independent Electoral Commission, but we are facing global threat of cyber attack. How do we?
Well, I think the answer to that question is actually the simplest. I think this might be the easiest question that you posed to me, because Gambia hasn't moved towards electronic voting system yet. We do have, we still have the ballots where we are using the pebbles to vote with, and so on. So there's no risk of hacking over there, because you see, so there's no risk of hacking. I think in terms of having an election system that might be unfair, I think the biggest threat would be the people that are responsible for declaring the results, whether they're going to be corrupted by the power in place or not, because I don't know whether this is true or not. I've heard that people have been registered who aren't Gambians.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then sometimes too, when the registration period is over, expires, the government still go behind and register people. So that has nothing to do with cybersecurity, because actually cybersecurity would come in when the voting system is electronic, and they are all networked together in an electronic networking system
Yeah,
where
just
you
like
will,
the US
where you
system
will
of election,
just like
you
the
know.
US system, where you will fear that somebody might hack into the database and change some of the data there. But we don't have that system, because our system, we are using pebbles. People cast
A
their
marble.
votes.
We use marble.
Yeah, marbles. Yeah, I call them pebbles because they look like little stones. So we use the marbles. So we cast our vote, and then they're tallied on on a system that is archaic. So there's no
Yeah,
way
it's
that
a very
somebody is able to
primitive
hack that.
way of yeah.
The
It's a
only
very
hacking
primitive
that
way
could
of
open, yeah, exactly. The only hacking that could happen there would be somebody stealing the vote or physically hacking or changing the figures when somebody is registering the numbers in the book and then changes the numbers and things like that. So that's the only
but doctor,
fear. But
what is your view on this? The many people consider the marble as a very primitive way of voting, because most countries now, because of technology, they are moving into electronic way of voting, like the US. Do you think that the
yeah,
Gambia should move from marble to that electronic way of voting, either paper? Because the marble is it's unique to Gambia. Stone vote, some will call it stone voting.
it is only made possible. It is only made possible in the Gambia because we have a very small population. Imagine you have 200 million people. You can't be using marbles. It doesn't make sense. But in the context of the Gambia, you can still do it because the electorate is very limited. So we don't have millions and millions of people voting. So you can still do it. It is feasible. What I'm saying is physically possible to do it. You see. But the thing is, will that save us from election fraud? I don't think so. Because, you know, if you have an independent commission, so-called independent electoral commission that is independent, so-called, in the Gambian context is so-called, it's not really true. If that commissions can go after the time expires to register people, if they can go and register some more people, I heard recently that they're trying to give our
Gambians in
national
the diaspora, yeah, to get
documents
registered.
to people in Mauritania and so on.
Yeah.
How can you stop that? I mean, even if you have the electronic system, those people can still come and vote. You see? So you must have an independent commission, electoral commission, that is really independent. But in this atmosphere of corruption, everything is corruption. You can just buy votes when you are in power.
Yeah.
That's the power of incumbency, because you have access to the national coffers. And therefore, you can just buy anybody. In fact, there is that kind of buying of election appears to be very, very illegal. But there are other ways of buying elections. For example, 2 days before the election, you bring bags of rice to people that are famine stricken. All these are buying elections. You see, that's why I think with our election system, whereby it's not based on the majority vote, but on the plurality of votes. By that I mean, if I get 40%,
Yeah.
which is the majority,
Yeah.
and everybody else gets under 20%, I still win.
Yeah. It's just
So in
one
that
by
kind of
party.
system,
Hmm.
you can just bribe enough people and you win. So that's why I think we had better make sure that all these opposition leaders come together and form one single party. Well, I mean ad hoc party, which means just for the moment. Later on, they can go their various ways because they have different um, ideas. But at least they should agree on something to rid ourselves of this corruption that we have here. At least they can have different platforms, but then they can agree on the lack of corruption, that they are all going to fight corruption. At least that should bring them together. I think our most serious problem hampering our development, hampering our security in the Gambia today is corruption. And that should be tackled head on. If we can't do that, we are doomed. And every year that goes by, the situation complexifies. The situations become worse and
Absolutely.
worse. And when we come to a point where
Absolutely.
I am sorry, when everything breaks down. Even now, morality and ethics is breaking down in the country. You can't even trust, uh, not all of them, but you can. We've reached a critical point where even our religious leaders, some of them can even be trusted
Yeah.
because they are
Correct.
all going for money.
Mhm.
So what kind of country do we have? We don't even have a country. I mean, if you are a Gambian today and you've been employed in a supermarket by some of these foreigners, they can treat you anyhow in your own country. You don't even have a country.
Yeah.
How come we don't even
Yeah,
have a country?
we have had reports of inhuman treatment. Most of these foreigners,
Yeah.
due to their Gambians employees. But Dr. Mboch, the time is not on our side. We have already exhausted our 1 hour conversation. It's 1 hour 22 minutes,
Yeah.
unprecedented. But because we are having a very, very insightful conversation from science, technology, maths, now into politics. I will ask you my final question before I round
Yes.
up this interview. Hopefully, we will be having you as we move into 2026 presidential election, even though you made it categorically clear that you are not a politician but you are an
No,
academic
I'm not.
scholar, but you have interest because academics and politics are interlinked, so they are kind of related. Dr. Mbodi, Gambia has a very youthful population, but unemployment and underemployment remain a challenge. Based on your experience mentoring students and leading programs, what practical steps can the government and private sector take to create opportunities for young Gambians?
Uh, this is one thing that I've been floating around. I think this is what um, this is what the apart from apart from getting political power, because political power is the thing that will save us. Because individually, our
Mhm.
actions will be so tiny that our individual actions, unless they are all coordinated, but isolated individual actions will be so tiny that we can't change much.
Mhm.
That's why we need a proactive government that is ready to really put in place the infrastructures that will help Gambians to develop their own country. I'm not awaiting to see a government that will change us, but I'm awaiting to see a government that will empower us to change ourselves. So, two things. If we have a new government that we will elect democratically, because I'm, I'm very big on the democratic process. I don't believe in power being obtained otherwise. I believe in democracy, and I think we should all go and vote to remove this government democratically. And once we do that, we put there somebody who, practically speaking, will do two things. Somebody that will plan our cities, because it looks like they're saying we do have some money to do that. So we should hand it over to a new team to do that, not this team, that will plan our cities. And then we'll focus heavily on improving telecommunication so that access to the internet will become one of the priorities of the company. Access and cheap access. When I say access, I mean cheap access. So Gamtel should be revitalized and given all the resources to play their role in developing telecommunication in the Gambia. Once we do that, Gambians themselves, with a good road system, an addressing system too, because that is very important. So that if you live in Abuko and I live in Bakau and I send you a letter, it should be able to be delivered at your doorstep. So we must have a good addressing system. They should start thinking about that. Planning our cities, getting a good addressing system, and developing our telecommunication system. Once that is done, you will be amazed how productive Gambians would be. For example, I can start a business to deliver, for example, fresh food to your door. If the road system is good, the internet system is good and cheap, and the addressing system is good, you don't have to come to my boutique to buy something, to my shop to buy something. You can just order them and I'll get somebody to deliver it to you in a short period of time, in no time whatsoever. The mailing system will be good. Everything will be good. Just put in place the infrastructure and leave the citizens to build the country. If the addressing system is good, the road system is good, people will build schools, and students will go to their schools in the shortest period of time without wasting time between commutes. By the way, I don't mean to make any free advertisement on your platform, but even myself, I'm in the process of building a school, a science school. I've invested my own money in it, and God willing, maybe in less than a year, the school will be up and running. So this is what citizens have to do. But that cannot be done unless the government makes it possible. I think this is my answer to that last question.
Unless the government make it possible and corruption kill. Many thanks, Professor Ibrahim Boj, for joining today's conversation on the final take. Many thanks for your time and good luck in your research projects. And a lot of people watching, they said they want to touch base with you. A student just commented on our feed that, he's studying the same thing you studies and he would love to connect with you. So maybe we'll do that offline. But, once again, many thanks, for joining us on this final take. For those watching, this is the final take with me, Seni Marena. We will draw the curtain here until we come your way. And next time, until then, do enjoy the weekend. And it's a Memorial Day here in the U.S. Dr. Mboj, have a, wonderful Memorial weekend.
Thank you very much, Mr. Marina, and hopefully we will have a lot more discussions as time goes on.
Inshallah. Many thanks for joining us, Dr. Mboch.
Tune into the Final Take with MK Marina every Saturday on the Alcamba Times and experience extensive conversations on a variety of topics, including national and international headlines, breaking issues, and major developments in politics, business, innovation, science, and sports, along with inspiring stories and expert analysis to provide a comprehensive understanding of the news.